9 now.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Well, the New Zealand Garden Expo, it's a new garden kind of festival. It's happening from April the 8th to the 10th at the Ellerslie Racecourse in Auckland. I guess kind of replaced the Ellerslie Flower Show, which isn't happening this year. There's a whole bunch of stuff on during those couple of days, 2-3 days, including talks about all kinds of things. One particular talk is about bugs, and Paul Barrett is the chap. He's the entomologist at Butterfly Creek, and he's on to talk bugs and bees with us this morning. Good morning to you, Paul.
Good morning, how are you?
Good morning, very good. Something I was pondering the other day, because I'm a bit of a keen sort of a suburban vegetable gardener, only just a few years into it. But man, I am always fighting bugs, Paul. And I'm trying to do it in the natural way, not spray too many chemicals around or anything like that.
Excellent, yep.
But I was figuring, if I was to plant my vegetable garden 200 years ago in New Zealand, would I be fighting the same onslaught?
Yes, to a degree you would be. Although, in New Zealand, 200 years ago, some of these insects weren't even here in the country. That's
what I figure. So are the worst bugs in your garden introduced?
Yes, essentially they are.
Yeah.
Some of the natives are causing issues as well, but essentially most of the insects that do cause problems in gardens are introduced species. Mainly because they're associated with a lot of the plants that are in gardens as well.
Yeah.
Or the plants are in families of plants which the insects associate with. So you've got a mix there. You've got insects which are introduced and are attacking plants which are within their scope.
Yeah.
And it can be a problem because although they're often referred to as pests, and everybody talks to them as pests and everything, I actually don't believe the word pest exists, personally.
Really?
I think what exists is imbalances.
That little green caterpillar that likes having a go at all my tomato leaves and then eventually the tomatoes themselves, isn't a pest?
Yeah, well, the problem with it is, as I say, it's down to imbalances because what's missing is the predator that preys on that caterpillar and keeps it in controlled numbers. The other thing about it, which is worth considering, is the plants themselves. Often plants get attacked by insects because there's another underlying reason. We often look at the insect being the attacker, and it's the one that's destroying the plant, and so therefore it's the primary fault. But often it's down to the health of the plant. It's whether the plant is under stress from other plants around it, whether it's getting enough water, whether it gets enough sun, all these things. If the plant's not entirely content where it is, or there's some problems with the plant, then the insects, being the capitalists on advantage as they are, as soon as they see that the plant's defences are down, they're in.
Is that always true? I mean, you look at, say, like, we've got a couple of great cabbage trees at home, and they're in the sort of that mid-stage before they sprout onto the, with the crazy flax at the top and the big trunk.
Right.
They've been attacked by some caterpillars that are obviously native.
Yes.
And that have taken all these. But I always put it down to, well, it's just so damn healthy, it's too tempting.
Yeah. Flax notcher caterpillars attack the leaves of cabbage trees.
Yeah.
The issue with it is a similar situation with kowai trees as well, with the kowai moth, where the kowai moth can often defoliate the tree in some respects. And the thing about it is that both these plant species and both these insect species have been doing this for a very, very long time. They're both well set up. The insects are feeding on the type of plant it's feeding on and having the right wherewithal to deal with that, but also the plant's got resources and reserves to deal with it. But if the plant is in a situation where it's not the best place for it, for instance, a cabbage tree shaded under other trees, it's going to be a bit more stressed, which means it's going to get hit by insects harder.
Because they can just sense that it's not that happy and it's open to attack.
That's right. I mean, plants have an immune system in a similar manner to we have, and they can protect themselves to some degree from insect attack. And for instance, the pepper tree, for instance, produces leaves which have toxins in them which put caterpillars off feeding them. One caterpillar has worked out how to do it, but it starts to feed, and then the plant sends defences to where it's feeding, and it has to stop and then go and start another part on the leaf, which ends up with the leaf completely peppered with holes, like you shot it, you know.
Yeah.
But if the plant is did not have those defences at all, the caterpillar would just devour the whole leaf. So the plant has a compromise where it keeps the leaf, although it's been peppered with holes. And to a degree, that's with other plants as well. I'll give you an example in our butterfly house. We had, when I first came to the Butterfly Creek, we had awful trouble with mealybugs and other fat-sucking insects attacking the plants.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought, well, it's not getting quite enough water in it could do with. And so I increased the water supply to the plants in the butterfly house, and the problem just went away. And the reason for it is because, not because, oh, I'm clever, I'll just put more water in there, but because the plants got more water, their immune systems were stronger, the plants were stronger themselves, and the insects didn't get a look in. Now, they are still present, they are still there, they always will be, but they aren't taking advantage like they used to.
So you're saying that in your suburban garden, you could get away with not even using organic stuff like garlic and pyrethrum and chili. It's all down to feeding your plants right and watering them right.
To a degree. I'm not going to commit completely to that, because obviously each garden's different in itself, and the situation's quite different from one example to the other. But there are factors involved in this which are more complicated than it looks. More than just, insects are just attacking all your cabbages. It's more complicated than that. And yes, you might need to do a damage control situation where the situation is just so out of control that you're going to lose the plant. You might want to do something to avoid that happening. But you need to sort of think, now why is this happening? Why are those plants over there okay, and why is this one suffering? And that's, you got to look into the complexity of it, because the thing about nature is it is it's a holistic thing. It's a whole thing. It's not just one thing. There's a number of things and factors which might be occurring, which is why something which is obviously occurring is taking place in the first place. So, Paul,
you obviously, you love your bugs.
Yeah, I do.
But have you ever met a purely evil bug?
Bed bugs.
Dead what bugs that are already dead?
Disgusting creatures. And mosquitoes aren't that good either.
Yeah, that's true. What about, see, I've been doing battle with the Argentine ant.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we've been doing battle with that too.
Yeah,
it's a smart little ant, that.
Oh, really smart. Apparently, if you don't feed them the right poison, it just disrupts the nest. They break up into little sub-nests.
Them and then they just split up.
Yeah.
And then what you've got is a compounded situation.
They're amazing.
The poisoning of them is quite an art. You've actually got to make sure that they are very comfortable with the thing you're using, and that it goes straight to the nest, and that they don't get alarmed by it at all, because if they catch any whiff of anything that's, this is weird, they think, right, okay, let's deal with this. And one of the things they do to deal with it is to split the colony up. And the problem with it is you've got to get every single ant, basically. And so you've got to bait them carefully, so that if they're coming to a certain food source, you want to be sure that your bait is where that food source is, and then there aren't any other food sources around, so they only go to that, because they'll soon suss it out.
And is there like the whole nest is like some kind of giant brain?
Yes.
Some kind.
Yes,
really creepy.
And it's like a super predator as well. They can change tactics based on what's happening with the colony.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Well, you're going to be talking about all this kind of stuff, I suppose, at the New Zealand Garden Expo. When are your talks on?
I haven't been given a time when they're on, but they're...
There's the website, of course, gardenexpo.co.nz. No doubt everyone can find all the details up there.
Yeah, and that's right. They will put all the details in it, but I know I'm going to be on there with other people and that. And it's really just to help people out. The thing about this show, what I like about it, is that it's like a series of workshops.
Yeah.
And people can see things actually happening, and instead of just seeing... I mean, presumably they'll see a whole lot of things that are on for sale, and that they can purchase things and that. But it's a much more on-hands thing, and that it can get some of their queries and that resolved on the day. So it's much more practical one, I think.
A practical garden show, that's what I like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Go along to gardenexpo.co.nz. It's happening April the 8th to the 10th. Paul Barrett, you're at Butterfly Creek. People can catch you there. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
No problem at all.
Cheers.
Okay.